Imagine like the richest, most successful tech billionaire on earth, right? Just walking away from their sprawling empire, looking you dead in the eye and telling you that every single promotion, every dollar saved, every legacy built is an absolute illusion.
Oh, wow.
Right, that all the optimizing, the macro tracking, the 10-year career plans, it's all completely pointless.
Just zero value.
Exactly. I mean, that sounds like a headline from some modern dystopian think piece, but, and this is wild, 3,000 years ago, an ancient king essentially did exactly that.
It's incredibly jarring when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Because we live in this era that is just obsessed with accumulating achievements, building our personal brand.
Constantly grinding.
Constantly. But the burnout rates are astronomical. And what we are looking at today is a text that diagnosed this exact modern condition millennia before the invention of like the stock market or the smartphone.
Yeah, and that is exactly our mission for this deep dive, because we have a stack of sources here detailing an ancient Hebrew text written by someone identifying themselves as Koheleth.
Right. The son of David, king in Jerusalem.
Yes, exactly. And the book is called Ecclesiastes. And today, we are going to extract its deeply counterintuitive, yet perfectly relevant antidote to our modern existential dread.
And, what makes this text an absolute masterpiece is that it doesn't just preach a set of dogmas at you. It's not a lecture.
Right, no bullet points of just do this, don't do
No,
that.
not at all. It takes you on this really profound intellectual and psychological journey. In fact, if we look at the author's overarching argument, it moves through three distinct conceptual phases.
Okay, let's map that out for everyone listening. How does he structure this?
So it starts with the introduction, which is chapter 1.
Mhm.
And he opens with this bold, sweeping thesis.
Mm-hmm.
All human striving is ultimately vanity. There's nothing new under the sun.
Which is quite the hook.
It really is.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't just leave it there. He moves into the body of the argument, that's chapters 2 through 11. And here, he treats his thesis like a scientific hypothesis.
Oh, like he's actually running an experiment.
Precisely.
Okay.
He runs this exhaustive real-world experiment to test if anything brings lasting fulfillment. So he pursues extreme wealth, absolute pleasure, supreme wisdom, and justice.
Covering all the bases.
All of them. And the result. He hits rock bottom. He realizes that death is the great equalizer. The grave claims both the visionary and the fool.
Which, I imagine, forces a pretty massive pivot.
It does, and that leads to the conclusion in chapter 12. Because of that realization, he arrives at a synthesized answer. We have to stop trying to conquer the universe and instead surrender to our limits.
Okay.
We have to find profound joy in simple, everyday gifts while recognizing that there is ultimately an accountability for our lives to our Creator.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. Because if I'm a listener who is, grinding away, trying to build a career or save for a house or just create a meaningful life, that initial premise sounds incredibly depressing.
Oh, totally. It sounds bleak.
Yeah. Everything is pointless. We all die anyway, so why bother?
That feels like the kind of heavy modern nihilism that makes people just, check out of society. Why on earth should we take life advice from someone who says everything is vanity?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that right there is the central tension of the entire book.
Okay.
To understand why Koheleth's conclusion isn't just a depressing surrender, we have to look really closely at the original language, because the English translation actually does us a massive disservice here.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about the word vanity in modern English. It sounds like narcissism, like looking in the mirror too much, or just this cold, empty void of nothingness.
Right. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It just sounds like an absolute black hole of meaning.
Exactly. But the original Hebrew word used there is hevel.
Yes. And hell does not mean an empty void. It literally translates to vapor or smoke or breath.
Oh, wow. That's a very different image.
Right. Think of stepping outside on a freezing winter morning and seeing your breath. It is there, it is real, it might even be beautiful, but the second you try to close your hands around it,
It vanishes.
exactly, it vanishes. And the text repeatedly pairs hevel with another phrase, a striving after wind, or ru in Hebrew.
A striving after wind, man, that completely changes the mental image, because you can feel the wind against your skin. You can see it bending the trees, but you can't, put it in a safe and pass it down to your kids.
No, you can't.
It's inherently ungraspable.
Yes, inherently ungraspable. It evokes transience. And this highlights a massive, crucial difference between ancient nihilism and modern nihilism.
Okay, let's break that down. What's the difference?
Well, modern nihilism often operates from the premise that the universe is just a cold, dead accident, right? Nothing inherently matters, and therefore despair is the only logical response. It's paralyzing.
Yeah, it's that heavy, crushing kind of pointlessness.
Exactly. But ancient nihilism, particularly Koheleth's view, isn't rooted in a dead universe. It's rooted in the awe-inspiring, unbreakable cycles of nature.
Oh, like the seasons.
Right. He points out that the sun rises and sets, the wind blows south, then north in continual circuits, the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is never full.
It's a closed loop. The earth abides forever, but we are just visitors here.
So when he says our efforts are hevel, are vapor, he isn't saying life is garbage. He is saying that the crushing pressure we put on ourselves to build immortal legacies, to be godlike in our permanence, is a delusion.
That's actually really profound.
It is. Accepting hevel is actually a liberating release. It frees you from the exhaustion of trying to force the universe to remember your name.
That is fascinating. It's like, okay, it's like the modern pursuit of legacy is trying to catch fog in a glass jar.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
You know, you put all your energy into it, you seal the lid as tight as you can, you put it on a shelf, and you tell the world, look at my jar of fog, look at my empire.
Right.
Right.
But when you open it years later, there's absolutely nothing there. Just empty air.
That is a brilliant analogy. And the thing is, Kohelet didn't just sit in an ivory tower and write that theory down. He lived it.
Right, the experiment we talked about.
Yes. The second phase of his argument reads like the narrative arc of a tragic protagonist. He essentially says, okay, if everything is vapor, let's test it. I have unlimited royal resources. I am going to run the ultimate empirical test on human happiness.
The Empire Builder's enlightenment. This is where the text gets incredibly psychological, right?
Yeah.
He decides to test life with mirth and pleasure.
Exactly.
And if we look at his experiment, it's basically a ledger. Let's actually structure this like a 2-column table for the listener just to see the contrast.
Okay, let's do it.
So on the left side, the asset column, we have his material achievements. And on the right side, the liability column, we have his inner emptiness.
Perfect.
So he starts big. In the achievement column, he builds sprawling houses, he plants massive vineyards, designs complex gardens and fruit parks. And if we look at the inner emptiness column, what is the emotional return on investment? He writes, what does it accomplish? It is mad.
Wow. Just mad.
Right, so he scales up. He thinks, maybe I just haven't built enough.
The classic trap. So, next row on our table, his material achievements escalate. He engineers vast pools of water just to grow entire forests. He acquires massive staffs of men servants and maid servants.
Yeah, a huge payroll.
And he amasses herds and flocks on a scale nobody in Jerusalem had ever seen. He is basically the ancient equivalent of a mega conglomerate CEO.
And again, we look at the right column, the inner emptiness that follows. He realizes all things toil to weariness. The eye is not satisfied with seeing.
Man, I want to pause on that phrase, the eye is not satisfied with seeing, because there is a psychological mechanism here that modern science actually has a name for.
Hedonic adaptation.
Yes, or the hedonic treadmill. Human beings are neurologically wired to get used to whatever environment we are in. If you buy a massive mansion, your brain gives you a huge spike of dopamine.
But 6 months later,
Exactly. 6 months later, it's just the place you kill your stuff that becomes the new baseline.
that is exactly the mechanism at play. Because the dopamine hit fades, the protagonist pushes to the absolute extreme for our final row in the table.
Okay, what's the ultimate achievement?
In the material column, he gathers silver, gold, the unique treasures of other kings. He hires the best singers and musicians. He explicitly states that he withheld his heart from absolutely zero joy.
So he bought every experience, every luxury, every piece of human capital available on Earth.
Yes. And the final entry in the emptiness column, he looks at everything his hands had wrought, all the labor he exerted, and he concludes it was all vanity. A striving after wind, there was no profit under the sun.
He's totally bankrupt on the inside.
Completely. But the narrative actually peaks in an even darker place.
Wait, darker than everything is pointless.
Yes. He doesn't just feel empty. He has a terrifying moment of clarity. He realizes that despite all his brilliant engineering, all his wealth accumulation, he shares the exact same ultimate fate as a complete fool.
Ah,
The grave doesn't care about his net worth.
exactly. The great equalizer. He says, how must the wise man die, even as the fool?
And there's a secondary fear that kicks in here that is just so profoundly modern. He realizes that all this wealth he broke his back to build, he has to leave it to whoever comes next.
Right.
It could be his son, it could be a stranger, but it might be someone who is an absolute idiot who will ruin everything he built.
which completely shatters his illusion of control. You can almost hear the panic in the text. He spirals into a severe depression, writing, "So I hated life. I turned about to cause my heart to despair."
Wow. But, I'd argue that this dark night of the soul is the most necessary part of the journey. You can't reach genuine enlightenment without burning down the false idols first. That despair strips away his ego.
It absolutely does. But it also forces a massive crisis for the reader. I mean, if the wise men and the fool share the exact same fate and our legacy is just fog in a jar, how on earth are we supposed to live? Right. Okay, let's actually role play this because the text wrestles with two very distinct clashing philosophies here.
Oh, I like this.
I'm going to take the dark, fatalistic view that bubbles up in this crisis, the voice of despair that you hear echoing through chapters 3 and 4.
Okay, go for it.
So, if I'm looking at the world through that nihilistic lens, I have to ask, why even try? There is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to break down and a time to build up. It's all just predetermined clockwork. Human beings have no preeminence over beasts. From dust we came, and to dust we return. And frankly, when I look around at society, I see systemic oppression. I see people suffering who have no comforter.
Pick bleak.
Yeah, honestly, if this is all just a fleeting vapor, the dead are better off than the living. I should just lay down and quit.
And that is a very compelling, seductive kind of fatalism. But this is where the author makes his most brilliant pivot. He confronts that exact darkness and flips it entirely.
Okay, how does he counter that? What's the positive life attitude here?
His response, which crystallizes beautifully in chapter 9, is to say, you are absolutely right that you cannot control the wind, you cannot control the day of your death, but your conclusion is totally backwards.
Backwards.
Yes, because there is hope for the living, as he bluntly puts it. A living dog is better than a dead lion.
Okay, wait. How does acknowledging that we are completely out of control lead to hope? That seems contradictory.
Because it shifts the burden of meaning. If meaning isn't found in controlling the universe, if it's not found in permanent legacies, then where is it?
Where is it?
The author says, go your way. Eat your bread with joy. Drink your wine with a merry heart. Let your garments be always white and enjoy life with the spouse you love.
Wow.
He is saying that the joy isn't in the immortal horizon, it's right in front of you.
That is a staggering paradigm shift. He doesn't deny the darkness or the absurdity of life. He uses the fleeting, fragile nature of life as the exact reason why you must enjoy the light right now.
Precisely. And think about how radical this is for a modern listener. We have people today who are so obsessed with optimizing their 10-year career plans, agonizing over their stock portfolios, or trying to hack their biology to live forever.
Oh yeah, the biohackers.
Right. And because of that, they're completely missing their actual lives.
Which ironically makes them miserable. The text actually brings up the concept of sleep in this regard, doesn't it?
It does. In chapter 5, the author makes an incredibly sharp observation. He says, "Sweet is the sleep of a laboring man, whether he eat little or much, but the satiety of the rich will not suffer him to sleep."
I love that. I mean, today we have people buying $400 wearable rings and cooling mattresses trying to artificially hack their sleep while their minds are just racing with anxiety about their investments.
Yep, they can't turn it off.
But the laboring man, the one who just puts in a hard day's work and accepts his lot, sleeps soundly. He is carrying the psychological weight of trying to be a master of the universe.
Exactly. Koheleth is telling us that true meaning isn't a puzzle to be solved. It is an experience to be tasted. It is the simple, mindful enjoyment of the present moment.
Just being present.
Yeah, a hot meal, the warmth of the sun on your face, the company of someone you love, the ability to just rest. He explicitly calls these everyday joys the gift of God.
So it's not that he's telling ambitious people to just lower their expectations and settle for less.
Oh, not at all.
It's not a cop-out for people who fail to build something great. It's a fundamental shift in attention. Stop staring at the horizon, trying to bend the future to your will, and start looking at the dinner plate right in front of you.
Because the future is a hallucination, and the past is a memory. The only thing that isn't a striving after wind, that isn't rue, is the authentic, tangible experience of the present moment.
Man, that is powerful. And this naturally leads us to the final phase of his argument. How does he synthesize all this in the conclusion?
So the conclusion, found in chapter 12, features some of the most hauntingly beautiful poetry in ancient literature. After meticulously deconstructing our ambitions and our egos, he urges the reader to remember then thy Creator in the days of thy youth,
So he's saying don't wait until you are on your deathbed to realize this. Do it now while you still have the capacity to enjoy the vapor.
Yes. And he uses these vivid, chilling metaphors for human aging and mortality. He warns us to remember our limits before the silver cord is snapped asunder and the golden bowl is shattered.
Those are powerful images. The silver cord usually represents the spinal cord or the breath of life, right? And the golden bowl represents the skull or the conscious mind. It's the fragile architecture of human life.
Exactly. The imagery is of a delicate hanging lamp. Once the cord snaps, the bowl shatters, the oil spills, and the light goes out. The dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God.
It's very final.
It is. And so his final synthesized conclusion is incredibly grounding. He says, "Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole man." Because eventually, God will bring every work into judgment, whether it is good or evil.
It's a profound reminder of our position in the cosmos. We are not the masters of the universe. We are guests.
Just guests.
And because we are guests, we have accountability. So respect the host, follow the house rules, and for goodness sake, sit down and actually enjoy the beautiful meal you've been served before the time runs out.
Beautifully put. And, I have to point out one final piece of brilliant irony that the author slips in right at the very end.
Ah, what's that?
After delivering this epic philosophical treatise, he warns his reader, "Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh."
That is absolutely hilarious. I mean, we are currently doing a deep dive into an ancient book, parsing its meanings and studying its philosophy, and across 3 millennia, the author is basically calling us out.
He really is. He is acknowledging that even the intellectual pursuit of truth, even reading books about how to be happy, can become its own kind of treadmill, its own striving after wind.
Wow.
At some point, the analysis has to stop, and the living has to begin.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away from this. We've talked about the illusion of legacy and the reality of the vapor. So try this thought experiment. If you knew for an absolute fact that in exactly 100 years, your memory would be completely erased from the earth.
Like completely gone.
Yeah, that no one would know your name, your achievements, or your net worth. What would you change about your schedule tomorrow morning?
Would you still agonizingly prep for that meeting? Would you still skip dinner with your family to answer email?
Or would you step outside, feel the wind on your face, and simply accept the beautiful, fleeting vapor of right now? Next time you find yourself desperately trying to catch fog in a jar, maybe just let it go. We will catch you next time.